Okay, it says that we are live. Hello, welcome to another Ask Your Mentor Anything live. We are live in the Mentoring for Translators group in the on the YouTube channel. For those that would like to watch it publicly, you can find my YouTube channel and under my name and watch it publicly, or my Facebook page. Again, we are publicly hosting the live there as well. So today we're having as a guest Ellen Singer. Ellen, thank you so much for joining us this Friday as well. And our topic is, Ellen suggested, and I'm so excited because I find it challenging. This one is added value to providing added value to our translation clients. Ellen, welcome. If you would like to introduce yourself to those that they might not know you already, I doubt, but still.
Oh, they do exist. They exist. There are more than you would think. I'm Ellen Singer. I'm officially Dutch. I grew up in Argentina and Uruguay. I've been translating since 1995. I'm a sort of a container of useless and useful knowledge, and I like adding to it. And I try to keep awake and challenged by changing my work methods based on modern things and whatever I hear of regarding options. So that's what I do.
I can tell myself I've seen that. I know Ellen since 2015. Hello, Javier. So people are joining us. You can comment below. Ellen, you can see the comments in the right corner of your screen. Let me know. So I'll start to say how we met, to break the ice. It was, I think, back in 2015. I joined, I think, the second international translation conference in my career, and that was TLC, Translation Localization Conference in Warsaw. Is that correct? And we met there for the first time. Of course, I knew Ellen online, and because she's very active in the online communities for translators. And then I had the chance to meet her in person. Then we became friends, but I think we met also in Croatia. Is that correct? You remember Zagreb?
Correct.
Okay, with at VP conference. Okay, one of our favorite conferences there. But then we came closer to 1 year later to Warsaw TLC conference. So thank you, Ellen, for accepting. So I will start with the most common questions that we have from our mentees, and then we go deeper in our topic. So if you would like to share, and if you remember, how did you start out as a translator? How did you find your first client?
Well, at the time, it was different from now. It was not such an international global community. It was 1995. I was on the internet as one of the first agencies in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. I was together with two people who did IT and my sister who'd been doing translation for quite a while, mm-hmm. and me. I had just returned from America where I hadn't worked for 2 years. And because we had children, we wanted to do something at home, and my husband refuses to work for a boss. So we started a business with the four of us. And within 2 months, I think, we had full capacity usage completely all the time.
Wow. So you started a business from scratch. You started a business, so you didn't have as a freelancer a client of yours and so on?
Nope. My sister did, but I didn't. She would be sent out by temp agencies, or she would be she would be working that way. But she was better known. She was better known on PROS because she was the one who was answering questions on PROS and such.
Okay.
At the time, PROS was still a very good place to be because it was the only place where you could meet other translators. And I met my Spanish reviewer there because I liked the way she was answering questions. I met some other people there, and slowly but surely it went from PROS and such places to Yahoo groups, from Yahoo groups to Facebook groups.
Okay, we're talking about 90s. When was that? Sorry, we interrupted.
We moved in the end of the 90s. We moved to Yahoo groups, I think. And then we moved later into Facebook, but that's only been the last 10 years or so. And I like it better because you get a better picture of everyone, because you don't have the structured approach of a prose where you have to answer questions, etc. My sister used to go to the conferences. She went to the first prose one. I only went and did that later when my sister decided to leave our business because she preferred being a freelancer than a business. And there's a difference. You have to be available 5 days a week during 9 to 5 hours always. And me and my husband work in the same office, so one of us is always here. And that's a different thing. And only nowadays with mobiles, people are more reachable even when they're not at the office. But of course, in the 90s, you still had to do it by phone and fax. I remember getting lots of paper faxes about translation.
Nightmare.
So yes, I'm old school. And we started doing a lot of IT because my husband did astronomy. I am a programmer. My sister studied computer studies for 1 or 2 years at university. So we did a lot of IT at the time. There was a big shortage of IT people. So also in translation.
Okay.
And
people are like that. Yeah, great. People are commenting very nice things. So as for you to be shown in the comments and your name, you have to click the link above us. So as Ellen to be able to see who you are, please click the link when you comment below this video, so as to have access to your name and to be shown to us. So we had a discussion with Ellen before we get into the live with you about if it makes sense to ask about older, if we can say, translators, how did they start out? Because some of the methods are outdated nowadays. But Ellen, what you mentioned already, I think it's pretty interesting for either nowadays starting out translators, because you mentioned, okay, no, not Yahoo, okay, or not maybe the same exact platforms, but to be active online, as you mentioned already, and to network and attending translation and not only translation events, it is a way to get clients. So I think that if you decode what Ellen already mentioned, she mentioned several ways of getting clients, okay, not only being online active, not only helping others in forums, but also to participate in online groups and to be active and attend online and offline events nowadays. So thank you, Ellen. Hello, guys. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Marina. Hello, Mariam, Kiverly. So the next most common question from the mentees is, if you remember, if you had any scale-up moment as your business. I know that you didn't start as a freelancer, so you might not apply that to all of us that we are.
I said within 2 months we had full capacity usage, and we started by targeting agencies, but we got so much work from the agencies that we never managed to then target direct companies. We only did that later because we wanted to do that ourselves. And so then we did, but then we were already had quite some experience and quite some things. But at the time, we not only worked as translation service providers, but we, my husband and my other colleague were more interested in the IT side, and they both were outsourced to companies. My husband was outsourced to a huge company who suddenly got a big client who needed Unix. A huge Unix computer that they rented and put on the premises, but they needed someone to extract the language from the software and have it translated and then be put back in the software that it would work. So my husband did that job for a few months until it was a repeated activity, too much repetition, because it was the same thing but a new language. So he trained someone internally and left that. But for a few months, he was doing that 3 days a week.
Okay, you have such great.
And my other colleague, Edwin, was one of the first ones working on virtual post office. So it was the first virtual website where you could go from room to room and ask things. And that was interesting to be part of. And it was interesting to see the whole coming of the CAT tools. And I find that if you know where CAT tools and software comes from and how it has been developed, it actually adds information. Just like, everyone says XDM, for example, is a CAT tool. It isn't. It's a translation management system, which includes a basic CAT tool.
Okay.
It's not the same thing as a CAT tool.
Of course.
And you have higher level cat tools or lower level, and most people only use about not even half of their cat tools. So
I
my
bet.
opinion,
I don't, yeah, myself.
being a bit more of an IT person helps.
Totally, and especially if you
Explain more.
translate in such a sector. Yes, if you translate for IT and you undertake such projects, definitely. I remember another story of yours with a bank that you translated for them. I don't know if you would like to share that or you want to continue.
Yeah, I can. I can tell you about that. I got a call about a bank. They had planned to 2 years before roll out new software for all the bank offices, and they contacted me among others, and I asked them about 20 minutes of questions to know what it was all about. All the other agencies had just said, yes, send it over, we'll translate it. So we had a discussion about what he wanted, and it seems that for 2 years it had been shelved because no Dutch people could have time within a short time period to do the project, to implement the software the way they wanted it. But all their discussions of what they wanted had been done in Dutch, so everything was in Dutch. So I asked a lot of questions, and I said, so you don't need us to dot the I's. It doesn't matter if we have commas in its place or not, punctuation in its place or not, as long as the meaning is correct. And so we discussed it, and they were a bit scared of talking to people who were doing them themselves and not a huge business. They had more trust in a big business. But the guy said, I'm going with you. And after 2 weeks of translating, and we delivered every time we had something finished, even if we had a query on it, they said, oh, come to the office. I said, oh, you're where? I can't translate as much if I'm not at the office. They said, yeah, but you need to come. Later, I realized that we were meeting all the head honchos of the big bank, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, and the two guys who had flown in from India and somewhere in Africa to do the work. And they had said it would take all day. The whole meeting took less than 20 minutes because within 20 minutes, both IT guys were satisfied that I knew what I was talking about. I had been a programmer in COBOL, and COBOL is not what you were using, of course, but if once you understand one language, you can actually understand how the logic works. So within 20 minutes, we were done, and we finished the project, and they implemented it all within their time frame. So that was a very nice project to be working on because we played with it, and it was fun.
Yeah, and it was a great project. I mean, in a matter of revenue that you got from that, it was a great project because you had managed, I remember, to translate even day and night for them so as to reach the deadline.
Not day and night, but I would do long hours. But I said, it's my decision which hours I work, and you get it when it's done. I said, and you just tell me which order you need it.
Yeah, amazing story. And it's nice that you say that you asked many questions because sometimes as translators, I don't know, we are told not to ask questions, or that would avoid the client from assigning us a project if we ask questions. But if you ask the right questions, I think, and questions that they show that you have interest in such specific project and you know what you are doing by asking the questions that you have to ask, then the client will trust you in assigning the project. And I mean, that was the reason why they did hire you, since you mentioned that about the question. Thank you so much.
It definitely is a big difference. I think that asking the right question at a conference to customers, et cetera, makes a huge difference because they know that you understand and you're actually asking relevant questions. Exactly. If you ask stupid questions, that's a different story.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Ellen. And for you that you find it that we talk a bit fast, you can watch the recording later. So don't worry. The video will remain in the group. You can find it later on YouTube. And so don't worry. You can go back and watch it as many times as you want so as not to miss any information that we are sharing with you today, even if it's a tool that Ellen is sharing or an advice. So the next question, Ellen, would be, which is your favorite client acquisition strategy? But I can skip it. I assume it's networking and online, being active online.
Referrals, actually. I am very often referred by my direct clients to other direct clients. They meet, they see each other, and they say, hey, this is the way. But also other translators, because some translators have found that, their customers or their friends or their family need a good translator, and people who sometimes say they can do it don't actually know what it's all about and do not
Yeah.
deliver what is expected.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a lot of referrals through my network,
Mm-hmm.
direct clients and translators, and I enjoy that because that means that someone thinks I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, that's a great way to get clients, but you have to have clients in order to get referrals. But the other interesting
Exactly.
thing that you mentioned is that you are referred to clients or potential projects and so on from other translators, which is very, very important to mention that to our community, because we are afraid sometimes to be active or to have friends on our social media, other translators, because we see them as competitors. But you see it the other way around, and I agree totally with you, because you have a lot of things to gain from other translators. It's not only knowledge or assistance or help to any kind of translation project, but it's actually getting referrals and actually getting projects by being active in online translation and other translators communities. So thank you, Ellen, for sharing that as well.
We have to go both ways. We have to do our CPD, but whatever you do, you can't know everything.
Yeah.
So if you work with other people, you can make sure that works. I once presented at a conference about cooperation and collaboration, and that we can't really know everything, and you can't always do everything. And the way I did it was, you can, put on some clothes, but if the zipper is in the back, you will need someone to zip it up for you. That's not because you're incompetent, it's because it's physically impossible. So for me, it's really important to have people that I can trust and that you can work with.
Yeah, that's very, very important. And also that's unique in our profession. I don't know if it exists in all other professions, that we cannot cover all language combinations or we cannot cover all specializations. So this is what makes us unique, and we can collaborate and we can refer other translators to our customers and potential customers, because we cannot cover all language combinations or all specializations. So this is very unique.
But not even your own. Not even your own. I mean, there are moments that you get 50,000 words to do from 10 different clients, little bits, but you can't really say, oh, I'll deliver it in a month's time. You have to say, okay, fine. And you just work with other people. And then we always from the start said, it's always done by two pairs of eyes. One translator, one reviewer, one DTPer if I need it, someone doing the desktop publishing. I have now with the Right Outside the Box group, we are now working also on different things that we need illustrators. So we're working with them now, and it's fun. It's fun to be working with other people, with other ideas, with other thoughts.
And also, if you want to scale up, this is, I think, important. This is a necessity, because scaling up, it means that you are taking huge projects that you might need help, but somehow you create a team in order to be able to deliver quality in such big projects. So yes, that's another reason. And also you can share later in the comments area this the new group that you mentioned, the new team that you work with. It's a new project that you came up, so people to know about it, since you mentioned it. That you work with a team. And also, if you have any questions for Ellen, I know that I have received several of yours and we're going to answer them at the last part of our discussion. You can comment below this video, because Ellen and I, we are able to see your comments. So if you have any questions during the live about what we are talking, you can definitely leave it in the comments. So the next question would be, what is your connection? What is your relationship with mentoring? I know that you have a lot of things to say. We could have one whole discussion about that. So we will keep it shortly, but to the point. And I don't know if I should introduce it by letting people know how you have helped me through this unstructured way of mentoring, or that would be later after you mention the way you do it. What do you prefer?
I'll start by saying something and then you can button in.
Definitely.
I believe in mentoring. I believe no one can know everything. I grew up at schools where we were told that, you had to know where the information could be found, not so much have all the information yourself. In my opinion, mentoring others also means that you also learn new approaches. So it's a win-win situation, my idea. Exactly. Things you might not have heard of. I am currently mentoring someone in Portugal, and it's fun because he does mainly subtitling, so he tells me about that world. And for me, that's interesting, and I hear things. So for me, mentoring is a win-win situation when you are learning and teaching, and that's the best situation. And sometimes it doesn't match your skills or knowledge or personality, and then you have to let it go. But I believe in cooperating with people who are completely different from you. Lots of people want to have someone that delivers sort of the same thing. I don't believe that's the best approach, because then you don't have the second pair of eyes with the second perspective. So I like working with people who are different from me, younger, older, different background, whatever. And but my main way of thinking is that you have to be willing to share. If you're not willing to share, I'm not really interested in cooperating.
And that's both ways, also from the mentee and the mentor, because the mentee has to share as well, because I had a moment I can share later with the mentee, but if they do not share with you what they're thinking, what they're living, how's their life, how's their business, how a mentor can help them. Yeah.
It doesn't work. No, I've mentored quite a few people in the beginning in pros. As I said, my Spanish reviewer, I met her in the beginning because she was answering the right questions, but because she wasn't a translator then yet, she was sort of scared. She said, maybe you should look here. Maybe you should do this. Maybe the answer is this. So I contacted her and I said, why are you putting so many maybes in there? You're always spot on. And that's how we started communicating. And she's still my reviewer, even though she currently doesn't really do translation much. She works for a company and provides translation there, but doesn't do it freelance anymore. But she's still my reviewer because she enjoys the projects.
Nice.
And so she does that in off hours. I have to take that into account, that she's not always available. But I really enjoy doing that. And I think that that is what's important. We have to enjoy what we do. I think
definitely
finding the right pieces for the puzzle.
In whatever we do, that wouldn't be only for mentoring, but for business, for our everyday life, we should enjoy what we do, definitely. Ellen, how many years you've been mentoring?
I started sort of mentoring her in 1997, I think.
Wow.
So that's a long time. I've had people at the office when we had
23 years.
Our largest project ever was 2 million words in 6 months. And we hired new people for that. So we had to teach them how to translate in the right sector, in the right way, so that we could still deliver our product. My husband did the review of all 2 million words.
Wow.
And he was only working on the review of all the projects, that and the other ones that we were doing. I find it rewarding to do a complete project when you can do the software, the help files, the whole thing. Because otherwise you're stuck with lower quality sections that you have to adhere to. But I've been working with people for 20-something years, and I enjoy that, and I like doing that. And I have a completely different approach to most people. Usually people want you to do it in a structured way. So I do it differently. I prefer that the person asks me a direct question and I will answer it with options.
Exactly.
Because there is not one solution to any problem. There are always multiple solutions depending on the person, depending on the extra factors. So I try to tell them as many options as possible. And some people find that scary because then they have to choose. Other people really like it because they realize that they do have options. So it all depends. I am not someone to be asked, how should I do this? You will get 8 options from me.
Okay, that's for me, that's interesting and challenging. And I would like to have more options rather than one, because you never know which one fits best to the occasion.
I think so.
We have some questions in the comments, but please click the link above in order for us to be able to see your names. I see one question. It's from Germany, Göttingen. Can you recommend an online translation course? I cannot presently physically attend a 2-year university course in my city. We can definitely answer that in the comments with links later. If Ellen, you don't have something to come up right now because it's not related to our discussion anymore.
There are many universities, other courses that provide this sort of training.
Yeah.
My problem with most training is that they don't really always work with practical options.
Always,
Like
yeah.
20 years ago when the CAT tool started, I had people who were employed by us and they'd come from university at that time and they'd done 1 day of CAT tools.
Yeah,
That is
here
not
in
enough.
Greece, none. Here in Greece, none. Still in 2020, we still don't have a specific. I think now they start something. Yeah.
Well, I find it that, and there are a lot of online courses, and you can do it. But I think that the best way is to just try it. I always say just try it, and try it with something that will not hurt, like volunteering for Wikipedia, volunteering for something else, working together with other options, and then working with a mentor that maybe can send you work and then send you the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about giving you work as such and then decide on what you can earn on it. But in the beginning, it will be a lot of feedback and helping you. So in my opinion, that is one way of working with a mentorship, is that you take someone on board and you tell them the skills, and you, of course, you pay them something, but you also spend a lot of time giving feedback. Mm-hmm. And that time, of course, has to be somehow remunerated as well.
Why it's a win-win situation, as you mentioned already.
I think so.
Yeah. So just to distinguish these two, there is the business side and business-related mentoring, where someone can mentor you about how to start out as a translator, how to set up a business, and so on. And the second one that now Ellen mentioned is about the translation itself. The process of translating, related mentoring, where can have a mentor who can actually help you with the translation itself. Yeah, they say here that based on recent graduate, there are still tons of gaps to be filled. Yeah, I totally agree. Hi from Bologna. Hello. I see all your messages. Hugs to you too. In order to see your names, you have to click the link above this video. Click the link that says that we are allowed to see your names. But thank you so much for your nice comments. So I think that thank you. It was so useful. Already Ellen mentioned many ways that you can start out as a translator. Ellen mentioned about providing voluntary your services, or starting out by having a mentor who could give you some work and then receive feedback on that, or even get actual an online course. And if we can come up with any online course, we can later mention that in the comments. So if you find
it depends where you're headed and which languages you do.
They were in Germany, yeah.
Dutch. So
please, about this question, please comment below your language combinations. You mentioned that you're already Germany based, Göttingen, so your language combinations.
Germany, I would go to the BDO and find out. The BDO has very, very good information.
The association, the German Association for Translators. There, you can start from there as well. Thank you, Ellen. And before we continue, we're already half hour talking. I would like to enter our topic before that. So Tracy Sintron says, in your opinion, how well do you need to know your second language in order to be a translator? Some people seem to translate into many languages without having a strong familiarity with it. So that is for you, Ellen.
Okay. In my opinion, you have to know your target language extremely well. Otherwise, you will not have enough vocabulary, synonyms, ways of writing it, enough idioms, etc. Your source language, it can be slightly lower, but not that much lower. You have to know the culture, you have to know the people, you have to understand cultural references, understand the hidden meaning of certain phrases. Idioms, for example, are not logical. We have a very nice idiom in Dutch, and it stumped a translator a while back. It was I keep you on the heights, if you translate it literally. And that actually means I keep you informed. So hi, we see your message now, Carlos. And it came big there. Anyway, I find you have to know these things, or know how to research it to find out. Researching is very important, in my opinion. I love specialization, but I wouldn't do a niche specialization only, because I'd get bored. I would know too much, and it would become boring for me. I have to have a little bit wider, but I do a lot of research. And if you know how to do research, you can do a lot more. For me, it's important to do all sorts of different things. And otherwise, I do get bored. And that's why I started talking at conferences, was because, I needed some new challenges. For me, everything is a puzzle. And I have at least 20 hats on my head all the time.
Yeah, that depends on your personality, what you would like to achieve. So there are translators that they are the opposite opinion, that they would prefer to have one specific niche and get as detailed and get as much knowledge in that specific niche. But I totally get Ellen's opinion. But then you have to be skillful, as Ellen is, in order to be able to have so many hats. So Tracy, let us know if we've answered your question. And it was German-English, the language combination of the person who commented earlier.
Well, I find I can translate into English very well because my English is very good, but I still have a good reviewer to make sure that it's up to standard.
Okay.
And with Spanish, I can do it, but it takes me longer because I haven't talked as much Spanish in the last 30 years as I used to when I was young. So for me, translating into Spanish, because the market went to South America because it was cheaper, so I wasn't interested in doing that anymore. It's now just a sideline and not my main work, which means that basically I don't use it enough, but I keep it up.
Okay.
Because I read a lot of Spanish books from different countries. And as I said, I have a reviewer in Spain, but I also have a reviewer in Mexico. I have a reviewer in Argentina. I have a reviewer in Uruguay. I have them if I want them. And they're loose connections, I only send them work once every so often, if and when it's necessary. But I like working with them because they know what they're talking about. Mexican Spanish is totally different. I had only 400 words. She corrected it. And I thought, she made a lot of mistakes. How can she make so many mistakes? Why? Because Mexicans use more the English form of prepositions than not the Spanish form. So all the prepositions were totally different. But for Mexico, if you then research and you do it with Cite MX to find out if in Mexico they say it that way, yes, they did. And once you have the trust, you no longer doubt these things.
Ellen, we have one more question.
Yes.
We have one more question because you said that you have 20 hats. They ask, but Ellen, what do you love the most? What do you think is your genius zone? So people, they love to know about you. So
my big problem, and it's always been my problem, is too many interests, too many things I like doing. Even at school, I was that way. I've always been doing lots of different things. I utterly love maths. But I utterly love language. And I think maths is a language, but most people won't agree with me. Most people say, if you're good in languages, you can't be good at maths. Well, you can. For me, I like variation, just like with my food. I will not eat pasta every day. I will not eat potatoes, vegetables, and meat every day. I'm actually mostly vegetarian, but that's beside the point. I need variation. Yeah. If I do not have a varied input, I cannot survive.
I totally agree with you, but I know there are some people that they like to eat the same food or a couple of foods. So
well, for me, everything has to be a lot of things. I was for 3 days, I've been immersed in the Translating Europe forum for the EU. And it's been lovely because people from all sorts of different sides have been explaining what they do with translation and having their input. I mean, I don't have to agree with them. I can use my own brain.
Wow, the discussion is firing up here. They say that Mexican Spanish is very different indeed, but don't you feel that working that way, doing the translation, paying a reviewer is not very profitable? I don't agree with that, but Ellen can share with us.
I do not. And sometimes it's also about providing what the customer needs. If I work for a direct customer, and I earn a lot on the projects that are into my bits that I can do, what my company can do. If I then do not earn on the other projects, it's fine too. And so for me, I know that a lot of translation agencies tend to think of per project you have to have a profit. I do not think that way. I have done jobs in which I get pay per word, but my freelancers need to have a payment per minimum. Fine. I pay them more than I get myself, and that's fine.
Yeah,
As
and
long
always,
as at the
yeah.
end of the day, I get money.
Yeah, and definitely you have included that rate in your initial quote if you know from the beginning that you're going to use a reviewer. So this is profitable as much as you want, and you have organized that from the
Usually,
beginning.
yes.
Yeah.
But at times it isn't. You sometimes have a project, and 2/3 of the rate goes to the reviewer, and you're still doing your translation. So it's not really a fair way of doing it. But if that's their price, and you
but it's
need
still
them because you don't
profitable,
have the time,
and it's still
you
profitable.
Still earn money, and I still have money, and I can still travel. And one of the ways I cut my costs, because I like going to conferences. At the beginning, they were costing me €1,000 a pop. Nowadays, I speak, so I don't pay for the conference. I sometimes get a little bit extra for the hotel or whatever. So now I can go to 5 conferences a year with the same budget.
Yeah.
So, you cut costs where you can, and you pay where you have to. And you want quality. And if you cannot provide quality, or you sometimes don't provide quality, your name goes down the drain. So
of course.
I normally have a specific reviewer for English. He wasn't available. He was totally immersed in a different project. I had to use a different person, and that person was more expensive. You know what? For that one project, fine.
You never negotiate the quality because of the rate. The quality has to come first, and then the profit, and so on. So we have a couple of questions before we enter our topic, because I really would like to devote some time in our topic. So they say, hello, Virginia Ellen. We cannot see your name if you do not click the link above this video, but still, I am educated as a translator of German French to Dutch, but in practice, most of the clients that I found so far need English to Dutch. Do you know any specific subjects that require more German to Dutch translators? It's for you, Ellen, I think, for Dutch.
I do not, but I know that if you join groups that are, I don't know if you're a member of the Dutch translation group, Vertalers Koffiehoek, or if you're in Belgium, Gent Vertalers, those very often have a lot of projects that they share with each other if need be. I know a few German to Dutch translators. I know also Dutch to German translators. So you need both. We have one customer that usually asks us to translate from English into Dutch, but they couldn't find a qualified, good translator from German into Dutch. So we've been doing it for them because no one else can do the techie stuff like we can.
Do you know any specific specialization they ask for that combination, that it would have a rise, that they could know?
Okay. I think, let's face it, translation market is growing faster than we can add translators to it. The question is, do you deliver quality? If you do, you will have enough work. But if on a certain day you have too many projects and you do not deliver the quality you have to, your work will be judged by your last translation.
Okay.
Not by all the other ones.
That's very clear.
You have to always provide quality.
Exactly.
Always. If the budget doesn't allow for a reviewer, I still pay for it because I want to know for sure. And of course, I make mistakes too. In my translation memories, there are mistakes. Yes,
that's different. That's different of having a couple of mistakes, of providing value to your clients.
Exactly.
And high quality translation.
We all made mistakes, and we all assume certain things are there. Our brains are geared to seeing and changing things to what we expect. I had a message the other day from someone who had her name. I thought Ellen. When I later looked, it was Eilen. I'd never seen that name before. So my the I with the dot on top, saw it as an L. So I answered to Ellen, and she was not called that. Okay. And I normally don't make that mistake.
Yeah, okay, it happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
And I still have my conference call with that direct client next Monday because, it happens.
They still have one, They still have one follow-up question to the previous, but it would be more profitable just to subcontract it out, no? They ask, and you could spend your time.
What?
It's for the reviewer. It's for the reviewer that we answered before about the profitability of having a review.
I find myself for when we did the 2 million word project, We had 7 people in employment. Before that we had 3, and we added 4 people for 6 months at the office. And all we did was manage people, manage issues, solve problems, software problems, terminology problems, etc., etc.
Consistency, most probably, if you have like 5.
A lot of other things. And you know what? I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So the first thing we did when the project was finished, they had a 6-month contract. We kept 1 more of the people, but the other ones left us again. And I preferred it because I downsized my business again, because then I can play with it myself. If I don't get to translate, I don't get to play with words. And if I don't play with words and I'm only managing people or managing projects, that's not for me. But some days I manage projects for 5 hours and I don't have that much time to translate. Okay. In that case, I'll hire someone to translate and I'll review it. That works too. And I can do that. So it just depends how it all happens. And one of the wonderful things about being a small company is that you can actually always add work, remove work, add people, remove people. And, you know, our freelancers are usually pretty loyal. And if we ask them, they try to fit it in. That's because they always receive feedback. They always get the last version back, so that they can learn from it. And that is one of the things that most of them really appreciate, because let's face it, how much feedback do you get from agencies? How much feedback do you get from other people? Nearly nothing. You never hear anything.
And it has happened to receive even bad feedback from someone that was just native, and I told them, okay, I have 5 years of studies, I have an MA, I have an MBA, I'm a certified translator, and you give me feedback from just one that is a native, like with no degrees, not a professional translator, because they are native. So I didn't expect it. Was bad feedback. It was the wrong feedback anyway.
That depends. Yeah. I've had it too. I've had it that I had to do a white paper and people wanted to have it really well done. So we've done it. We've done 2 review rounds and we delivered it. But the company had asked the agency, because we also work for agencies, to check it again because it was so important. And the agency just reviewed 2 pages and changed the Z's into S's or the S's into Z's in English.
Okay. English, that was British, all they did. British and US English, yeah.
No, it's not even that, because that used to be Oxford English, not anymore, but it used to be. We're not even going there. But they had changed it in the first 2 pages and not in the rest.
And that was the feedback, okay.
And that is how they delivered it back. And then they were happy because they had had another round of review. But they messed up. And I told them, you're idiots. And I never worked for them again.
And that would be a whole live. The feedback would be a whole live, and what we should include and what not, and what we should expect and not from having feedback.
I think the translator should always be able to say, yes, this is correct or not, because reviewers are not always right. Mm-hmm. Just like translators are not always right.
Of course, we're humans.
Communication is important. Mm-hmm. My reviewer for English changes everything that he can think of, everything. And sometimes he changes things that are actually technical things that shouldn't be changed. So I remove those changes. So that's fine.
You go back. Okay.
I go back. That's fine too.
Okay.
It's a discussion.
I'm a bit afraid about the time here, so this is why the discussion is so interesting. And thank you so much, Ellen, for being so generous with us.
How do you rule out the fields where
this is Carlos.
Well, I think that you can make any subject, you can make it your thing. You have to just read enough about it and do enough research, find out what the terminology is, how it works, how it goes. So the first time you do a job for a market you don't know, it'll take you a long time to deliver a good product. But the next time it'll be easier. So doing something that you already know a lot about is easier. It's a lot easier because you already know most of the terminology. But terminology also changes through time. We had a project in which we had to translate a lot of animals, different types of monkeys. And we translate them, my sister and me together. And the customer actually was a biologist, a zoologist. And he said all our names were wrong. So we said, no, they're not. your names are right 20 years ago, but not anymore. They've changed. And so we showed him where we got the information from. And then he said, oh, so my instinctive knowledge is wrong. I said, yes, it is. Same thing as it's an anecdote I use a lot more. Once we were doing a tire advertisement. It was all about a race. And the whole description of the race was totally wrong. It was correct for 3 years before. It had been laying about for a while, I think. But they hadn't updated it. So my translation said 8 laps instead of 12. It said that you did have to do a qualification round when they had said it hadn't. And I told them, please, please, please don't see these as mistakes, even though the translation memory is worthless after that, because this is the reality. And I got it from here, from here, from here. And then they answer, oh, I didn't know you knew everything about races. I didn't. I'm not interested in races.
Yeah, research skills are very important in our profession.
If you don't know how to research, you will fail.
Exactly. Carlos, did we reply to your questions? Please let us know in the comments if you would like to get deeper in that specific topic, if Ellen has just covered your question.
By the way, I never studied to be a translator at all.
Okay.
I have no translation skills officially. I studied to be, I did a few years of history. I did a year of English at university, and I got my diploma as a chef, a restaurant chef. But restaurants and menus and culinary stuff wasn't profitable at the time. So we did IT, which I do have a degree as a programmer. But I don't believe that a diploma is the only way. I don't believe not having one is the only way. I believe that you have to be open for skills on researching, etc., and a lot more.
Yeah. For learning,
you have to keep
developing,
everything.
Exactly, developing yourself, your skills. So totally. And thank you, because we had one such question, your background, and they would like to learn from you. So I think, Jennifer, we answered your question. And Ellen, she says her story everywhere. So I've heard that because she starts with that in the conferences. She has never hidden her background and how she started. And I, of course, why not? Because that's a great story to share. So I would really love to go to our topic and to devote the time for you, but because some people, they're waiting to share how your unstructured mentoring helped me, I would like to share 2 moments. Because for those that know me already, they know that I'm mostly to the structured way of doing things and the structured mentoring, but that's my way. This is not because I don't think that the unstructured ways, they don't work. So we lost Ellen. If you are here with us, click the link again to join us. Let's see what happened. So let's wait for Ellen to join us. Okay, she's joining us again. Most probably it's a connection issue.
Hear me now?
Now you're in.
Sorry, what I was trying to do was log in to be able to comment. I can't comment.
No,
so
you cannot.
So
but you will, you will be able to comment later, so don't worry, because Ellen is a member in our community, and she was the person who helped me to start out this community. So she's there. You can find her later, and also later Ellen will comment in your comments. She will reply to you back, so don't worry. But because now we are live, we will focus to our topic, and we will reply to your comments later anyway. And of course, you can reach out directly, Ellen. Okay, what advice would you give to people starting off trying to find work, especially with agencies, which I found have been really, really McDonald's, cheap, fast, low quality, and awful pay? Sorry, I think we have moved on.
There's everything. And even the cheaper ones, most cheap bottom feeder agencies have 2 desks, PMs in one side, which is cheap. And they also have 1 or 2 PMs for quality work. And you have to make them understand that you do not offer the cheap stuff that you offer the high quality one. For example, sometimes a good translator is working already with a customer, but they want an agency because they want to do other languages as well. And they feel that an agency is better equipped to do that. I don't agree, but that's second. That's not the important issue here. But they say, I'm not willing to go down to the rates of the agency. So yes, I'll do it through the agency if that's what you want, but I get the same amount, 75 euros an hour, 12, 15 cents a word, whatever it was. And so the agency says, yes. Of course, they don't send them other work until they realize that it's required. I've had it a few times that they go off to a cheaper person and then they come back, and then they go off and then they come back, and then they go away and then they come back. Because quality is what is important for a lot of our end customers, not the agency.
In the end, yes, quality. In the end, is always quality that matters. And
and for quality, you need to have skills, but you also need to have time. If I'm doing 10,000 words in a day, it will not be quality. It cannot be quality.
So what would be your advice to Tracy and those
finding places where they value you, finding colleagues that are willing to share work from their better paying customers, and building up your reputation. I have a reasonable reputation. I find that if in a group of translators I am one of the applicants, I very often I say, oh yeah, I have time to do that. I very often got the job, or they even ask me to do the job behind the scenes before they even ask people to see if I can recommend someone, if I can help someone. And when you help others, you get work from them in the end. I sometimes spend 6 hours a day helping other people. When I don't have the work that I need to be doing, that's fine. Or I do the work in the evening. And I just do that. I provide information on other translators, etc. So we are not competing against third world rates. We are alongside. It's a different kind of market, because there are good third world translators for low rates, but most of them have caught on and asking our rates too. I know a lot of very high quality translators in third world countries, if you want to call them that, but they are actually asking higher rates than I would.
Of course. I would like to have my 5 cents here, if I could, because it's a very common question I get from starting out translators. This is not the reality. This is very common issue that we have to deal, because there is a huge competition nowadays. And this is why we chose this topic, providing added value, because of such competition, what we have to do in order to overcome this issue. But definitely for me, there are two ways of doing it. If you want to start out, instead of volunteering your services, you would like to start with bottom feeders just to get experience out of those projects, but be sure that at the same time you are looking for a better paying client all the time. So do not work for them that mostly 6 months, not more than a year. And definitely the way that those bottom feeders, they exist, is because we undertake projects in such low rates. So if we change our mindset, and rather seeing it as a reality right now, seeing it as a reality that we support, and we can change it by stop supporting such a reality. So by stop accepting such rates and finding alternative ways in order to make income, like Ellen already mentioned, then I think it's the only way to go ahead.
Even in Italy, I just see the comment from you, Tracy. Even in Italy, there are very different rates going around. If you look at the rates that, for example, Alessandra Martelli charges, they're not what are called the normal rates. And if they tell you that the normal rates are much lower, etc., it's up to you to say yes or no. I very often said, I'm not willing to work for that rate. You can do it for my rate, or I will go and write a talk for a conference. And then they suddenly think, oh, yes, maybe we do want her. And that's fine. And they say, okay, for this once. And I say, fine, for this once. And if they want to go lower. And right now, they want us to add Verifica to one of our customers, our agencies. And I very quickly said, we use the QA in MemoQ. It's much better than Verifica for our language. Verifica is perfect for Polish. It's not as good for our language. I fought it, emailed them 3-4 times. They said, no, you still have to have it because we want it for all language. I said, that's fine, but our rate goes up 1 cent per word.
Thank you so much.
Otherwise, I'm paying for it. I don't want to pay for it. It's useless. If it's a good tool, it's my tool, it's fine. But if it's not my tool, it's their tool, and it's going to cost me time and effort to actually make it work, because I will have to change a lot of settings and a lot of profiles for it to work.
It would be a whole discussion about that, and we could talk hours, like it would be a panel for starting out translators. Let's keep it shortly. I think you covered very shortly. Thanks, Ellen. Agree 100%, says Tracy. So Ellen already gave you some advice on how to deal with that, update your skills, become more skillful, find to learn new things, become more confident about what you provide always high quality. So if you watch the recording again, you can find out many ways how to deal with bottom feeders nowadays and how to become more confident in order to charge the amount of rates that you would like that to charge in order to make ends meet, and that you feel that you should charge and not accept the low rates. So thank you, Tracy, for your question, and I hope that we have covered your questions so far. So Ellen has helped me to double my rates, and that was back in 2014, and that was with an unstructured way of mentoring. I asked directly Ellen because I knew her from conferences, and I felt comfortable enough to ask it through a message. I was contacted by a Dutch very big localization company. So I will keep the last questions for the end of the discussion, Ellen, because we keep having questions, so we'll keep it at the end so as to focus to the topic right now, and if we have time, we will devote the last time for the last remaining time for your questions. So thank you so much for being such active today. So I doubled my rates by just sending a message to Ellen, like I've been contacting for that specific localization big Dutch company. How much do they charge there? Because I have my Greek reality here, and I know the rates here in Greece are very low, but I would be very interested in knowing the rates in specific countries. And the per word rate that Ellen suggested me, I was, wow, no, I cannot. So the first reaction was, oh, no, I cannot charge that much high. So she told me the minimum should be that. I can't recall right now the amount of rates. I assume Ellen doesn't even remember the moment. Yeah, it was just a messenger. But then I got with the minimum rate that Ellen suggested, was doubling my rates, almost doubling my rates. Like I think I was charging back then 8 cents for agencies, and then Ellen's suggestion was 14, something like that. And they accepted my rate. Not only they accepted my rates, I took the project and I still have them as clients. Okay, it's not only the rate, it's because you provide quality, because you're there for them, you reply fast, you are on time, you respect their delivery deadlines, and so on. There are many other aspects. But for me, that was a great moment that the unstructured mentoring, if we can call it like that, helped me in order to double my rates in a moment that even Ellen doesn't remember, but for me was a breakthrough moment in my career. So thank you, Ellen, for that. And I can recall many moments, but one really I have in my heart, it was I had a post somewhere. I posted it. It was even a picture. I didn't write it, and I think it was something, Ellen, you won't even remember that I still feel, I don't remember in English how was it exactly, but the meaning was that I'm not following my dreams, and I feel the heavy in my back of not living the life that I would like to live. And Ellen just commented underneath, so what's the problem? Go on and live the life that you want to live. I don't know if you remember that. It was a quote.
It sounds like me.
Yeah. So what? She replied, so what? Go on and live the life that you want. And for me, it was because I really felt the quote that I had said back then, because I had a very bad personal life at that moment. I had a very bad relationship with a very bad person, but also I didn't do the masters that I did. I would like to have a master's degree in my life. I would really have to to actually a second business. I would really want to grow my first business. And I had many, many dreams, if you can say, goals in my head that I thought that I would never go after them. And it was just a comment of Ellen, just go, so what, go and live the life that you want. And that was a very breakthrough and mind-changing moment, if we can say. Then I did my MBA for 2 years. I actually paid for it. I found the money. I did the MBA. I focused on that. I opened my second business. I've grown my first business. I made 5 figures in a month. So everything took the pace, if we can say, and the path that I really had in my mind, but I never thought that I would be able to do so. Just a comment, just the right comment, the right moment, the right advice might be a life-changing moment in someone's life. And thank you so much, Ellen, for that.
Well, shall I go very quickly to my
let's
so
go.
many times? So shall I go through the providing added value? In my opinion, I don't know if you still are going to stay with us, otherwise watch it later, but I'm going to continue now with the topic. I find that an initial dialogue with your customer is the first thing you have to do. And you have to know who you're writing for, why you're writing this. So the objective.
Which question are you answering, Ellen? Which one are you answering?
I am not answering one of the questions.
Okay, because I see some questions.
Added value.
So we are entering the topic, just to mention.
Finally, after that,
providing added value to our customers in the translation business. So, Ellen.
Okay, an initial dialogue with your customer should run something like, who is it for? Mm-hmm. Why do you want this translator? How do you want to translate it? When do you want to translate it? And what do you actually want to translate? And it's not them providing it only. You have to have a dialogue. The dialogue is very, very, very important. Why? I've had it, for example, I'll give you an anecdote I've used more often. I've had it once, someone called me up and said, Ellen, I hear you do translations. Can you do 10,000 word article for tomorrow? I said, no, not really. But can you please explain why you want this and why you want it this fast? And they said, oh, we are going to write an article on this topic, and we think that this article is relevant, but it might not be. So I said, so why do you want it translated? Because we don't understand the language, and we need to know the details that are in there and their perspective. I said, well, what about instead of spending 2-3 days translating, I read the article and give you a summary in 1,000 or 2,000 words. That'll cost me less time, it'll cost you less money, and you can have it tomorrow. And so I provided a solution to their problem, and they were really happy. They said, but then you're earning less. I said, no, I'm wasting less time. And that is the way I think about it. I think that we should be providing solutions to their issues and their problems, and not so much wanting to earn more. I've had it that I've told customers, this disclaimer is 2,000-3,000 words. You don't need that for our languages. That's an American thing. And they say, oh, please translate. And then later they come back, oh, you were right. We won't translate it in future. Can you now translate the shorter version? I said, sure. And I did the shorter version, and it was fine. But I had already translated the 3,000 words, and they had to pay for it. But they didn't for it in future. And I think that helping them also works to make it more value. Now, in the old days, I would tell them, oh, there are a few mistakes in your source language. And I would give them a sentence, tell them what the mistake is, and give them the thing. Only thing is, I would also say, in which file, where is it, what is this all about? Because they couldn't even search, find and replace or whatever in their initial document. I sometimes sent them the source document back, but sometimes it got very convoluted and spent a lot of time because they couldn't find it. They didn't know how to answer. Nowadays, I do it with the delivery. I deliver my translation, and I deliver the comments on the source translation in the bilingual file that I can make in one click of the button in my CAT tool. So it'll have all the comments. When I find them, it irritates me. A source mistake irritates me. So what I do is I write the comment on the side of my cat tool, and then it's out of my brain. When I used to have to make lists, I had to think of it like a much longer than I do now. I just put it there. The other day I had it was all about a booklet, an A5 booklet that had to be translated, and suddenly was talking about an A6 booklet. I said, it says A5 booklet, you can't have that here. And they said, oh, we're not sure if it really is an A5 or an A6 one. I said, fine, I'm putting it in your comment, but I'm translating it. And no, you have to translate it like it says. I said, fine. But in the comment, I also added how they should do it the right way.
Okay.
Because for me, it's important that they have to back and forth to me to get the new version, because that's wasting my time, because that usually isn't paid. And if so, it's a waste of their money. So for me, I want to provide a useful translation. I want them to have whatever it is that they actually need, and not so much what I think they should be using. I sometimes tell them what they should be having, and sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So
I think
so
they
that's
appreciate
the way I provide that.
Yeah, they appreciate in all profession, not only in our profession. I think the customer will appreciate the honesty if you are honest to them and tell them.
Most do, but not all do. Not all do. Yeah. I've had it in a collaboration with an agency.
In the end, they will. Sorry?
I very often ditch customers that don't appreciate it, like I ditched the bottom feeder that kept on going down in rates. But one of the things they did was put a new language, a new target language added to the thing, or the person changed or whatever. And we could all put questions, and the customer would see them in an Excel sheet. Yeah. But they were stupid questions. It appeared, oh, you have a new file contribution. So I went and looked. And they were stupid questions. It was clearly that the person knew nothing about the topic. Mm-hmm. They were asking for a double short V, so VV, and they were saying, what does W stand for? But even in their own question, they had copied the two letters, and it was ridiculous. Because they were saying, what does the W stand for?
Yeah, but these were not your clients, your ideal clients, I suppose.
So I ditched them. If I can't,
yeah,
I've been told to translate right with right.
This is why I say that. Yeah, your customers, they will appreciate your honesty, and
most of them do.
If they are going to be your ideal clients, I'm not referring to bottom feeders or agencies, okay, of course. So one way to provide value is to include all this information, as Ellen told in the initial dialogue with the customer, but also Ellen mentioned some examples of how, by reviewing their source text or by telling them the truth about how long should be their source file and the translation or the text to be translated. So Ellen, is there anything else you would like to add, or you want to continue?
Yes, I would like to add that, in my opinion, we should start with translation, review, and QA before we deliver. But you can always deliver other things like a terminology list. I keep one anyway, my TB, to make sure that I am consistent.
Okay.
So it's a question of just exporting it, but only to the ones that appreciate that. If they don't appreciate it, and they just come back telling you that it's all wrong, forget it. But if it's a direct customer, I send it to them and they can give me feedback. Oh, we don't like using that. We like using this synonym. Fine, I'll use that synonym. But when they tell me to use the wrong terminology, I refuse.
So and some extras is terminology list.
Source errors indicating missing elements. So you've given us this, but in our culture, we would be used to doing that. Or like, for example, David gave an SEO workshop a few weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it because he was explaining that sometimes a key term has to be translated with two key terms in the target language, and sometimes two source ones have to be translated into one in the target language. Wow. Your expertise, your knowledge makes the difference. Anyway, you can also provide cultural consultation services. You can tell them this doesn't work. We all know things that, cost brand names that would no longer happen nowadays. We all know the Colgate toothpaste. If you're a Spanish speaker and you say Colgate, it means hang yourself up, commit suicide.
Wow.
Not the best name.
Yeah.
They very often do a campaign about whitening toothpaste. it doesn't work in some cultures. So telling them that it won't work is actually providing added value. Yes, you will translate less, but they will remember you.
Of course,
I remember,
and it's essential, yeah.
25 years ago, I started working for an agency. We still work for them. One of the reasons they really loved us, they started working with a CAT tool, and they'd sent us 3,000 words to be done in 1 week and a bit. And we hadn't started. And it was a new CAT tool. And we said, fine. And we were going to do it. And 3 days before the deadline, they say, have you started? No, not really. But we've still got plenty of time. I said, yes, because no one can open the CAT tool and make it work. I said, okay, I'll call you back in a little while. Within an hour, I called them back and I told them exactly what was wrong with their instructions on how to put the program on your computer, how to work with it, etc. So I told them, you have to change this, this, and that. I don't understand. I said, I'll change your instructions. Send them out to your people. No, we have to have the engineering department look at them because they provide the original instructions. That they provided faulty instructions, but that's fine with me, what you do with it. But what's wrong with just sending it to the 16 translators? And if it doesn't work, there's no harm done.
Of course.
So they did. And within an hour, everyone was working.
Do you charge, Ellen, for those extras that you mentioned?
No, I don't.
So those why are extras, and this is why it's added value. So because it's going to be asked this question.
That's why my rate is higher.
Exactly.
My rate is higher because I deliver this too.
So this is a great way. If you would like to justify your higher rates, for example, you could do it by providing those extras. And I can repeat that Ellen already mentioned terminology list, source errors, indicating missing elements, cultural consultation service, or even helping them with their CAT tool, as Ellen already mentioned. Those would be some extras that you do not charge extra, but you can justify why you are a high-paying, for example, client or translator.
And you can put it in your invoice, but then you say, consultation on your CAT.
Yeah. Zero. Yeah.
Because then they're aware that you've done it.
And they will appreciate and they will, your value, of course.
It's fine. And if you spend hours on it, it's different. I've also spent time explaining about the tag soup that we got in a tool. I talked about it today on Facebook. The tag soup was with all these, every letter had a tag around it. You can't translate that. But that's a problem because Studio hides it from the translator, and MemoQ shows everything to the translator. So when I moved the Studio project into MemoQ, I got tag soup. So I explained to them, please, just before you put it into the project, make it all 100% black, and the problem is gone. And they said, no, it's a problem with your software. I said, it's not a problem with software. It's a problem with your procedure. And it took me an hour there and back. And then no longer I have problems. And every time a new PM sends me something that has tag soup from that agency, I tell them, go talk to that PM. Don't talk to me. Go talk to them. Don't waste my time. And that's fun. It's the way to do it.
I wonder if I should include in my invoice 25 emails back and forth up to have this final, for example, negotiation, or they're having 2 hours phone calls. Should we include that as administration fees in our invoice?
I think so, because sometimes they're really wasting your time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I very often, when I have a new customer, I say, don't waste my time. I'm asking me my rates. Yeah. Provide me your budget, and I will say yes or no, and it's the end of the story. You get much higher rates that way. And I sometimes say, no, forget it. I'm not working for that, but if you can give me this, I'll work for you.
So let's add
okay.
Other ways to provide added value to your clients, Ellen.
One of the things I really hate about the modern market is that all these systems have meant that you have one rate for your customer. In the old days, we had a different rate for running text, for a part list. I remember the part list price being 10 times the normal rate. 10 times. I was getting a guilder instead of 10 cents at the time. That was logical, because it's a lot more work, because you don't have the verse, you don't have the all in between words. So if you have just the part list, you have a lot of hard work to do the research.
You're missing, you're missing information.
I'm missing that. Yeah. So I very often say, I don't like working with your system, and it's fine if you want to put me in one rate, but then we do the average from the top and the bottom. It doesn't make sense to just use the bottom one. It just doesn't. Most of the software programs are made by people who have no knowledge of the market. One of the reasons MemoQ made a much better software as a CAT tool is because one of the owners was actually a translator and knew what he needed and tried it out himself. That makes a hell of a difference. But all these translation management software people have no idea what it is. So they decide that what you need is just what they think that you should be using. And they should have consultants. And if not, I'm still waiting for someone to actually invent the wheel the right way and not all these square wheels that we are getting. The go-betweens who do not discuss projects with their customers but solve problems with a one-size-fits-all solution, does that really work? No, it doesn't. They will lose their customers at one point. Yeah. I am very proud that some of the customers I still have have been with us for 25 years.
Wow, that's a success.
That, for me, is a sign of success. Lots of people want only to keep the higher market ones. I just tell them, you don't want to go up your rate? That's fine. I also have people paying twice as much. So you'll just have to give me more time, and I can do it when I have time.
Okay.
And they're happy with that because they know
great
that
negotiation. Yeah, that's great.
So
yeah,
it has to be either time or more money, or it has to be giving me something extra. I like one of our customers because they're doing cutting-edge software stuff. So I learn about the current situation of certain software.
Okay.
And that is added value too. So for me, it's not just about the rate. It's also about what it adds to me. For example, I used to do a lot of construction projects. I don't do them anymore because the ones I was getting, because I was 20% more expensive, were the ones everyone was refusing because they were so badly written. So they had 100 names for the same part. That's exaggerated, 5 to 10 names, but still, it doesn't work because you cannot provide a good quality translation. So I stopped doing that because I said you would have to be paying me 10 times the rate for me to actually do all the research required within the time given.
Okay.
So ditching customers is fine. You will find other ones. If you don't have time, you will. I know someone who works for a very low fee, always gets 3,000 words every day, but therefore has no time to getting nice projects and cannot accept them even if they come her way. It's a pity because if you do that, you will never have better customers and more work at a reasonable rate because all your time will be consumed. So there is instant translation software. Of course there is, Google Translate, but we all know the quality. We don't want to deliver that. The market is growing and growing, and there's more than enough work for everyone. We just have to provide something that is more valuable for them than the instant service that they are for free. So Google Translate level is at 0 input. Our work should be better. If it is not better, it should be. And I've seen human translation that is worse than GT. I have seen people translating software and using, within 2,000 words, 5 names for the same button. Wow. You don't do that. Because they added 20 memories and then they were faster. No, that doesn't work. Okay. Consistency, terminology bases, QA, that is part of your work process. Unless you're writing from scratch, because I also do copywriting. Of course, that doesn't work with QA, etc. But that's different. There are lots of translation markets. You have to find the one you want to work for. If you want to provide cheap and quick and dirty, that's your choice. Just like you can buy. I mean, if I go to a restaurant and I'm paying 200 euros for my meal, I expect higher quality than if I go to the pizza guy around the corner that only asks 10 euros for the pizza and a drink on the side is 20 euros. I cannot expect the same quality for 20 euros that I can from 200.
Yeah, you pay for what you get, they say. But we discussed that. Yeah. But we discussed that in detail with Tracy earlier, so you can go back and watch, because the part that we are answering your question about
reinvent yourself constantly. For example, I know someone actually, she never did fashion stuff. She didn't like fashion. She was not interested in fashion. And she got a job to translate for a fashion magazine. And she discovered she actually enjoyed it. So very quickly, she removed all her other stuff, started promoting herself as a fashion translator at a very high price, and now gets only fashion stuff. That's fine, if that's what you want to be doing. You have to decide, what is it I want to deliver, and make sure that everywhere it's clear that that is what you deliver. If I like doing different things, so I have a website telling you that I'm a technical translator. I have a different website telling you I'm a copywriter. I appear everywhere, nowhere as a conference speaker, and that's fine. Reinvent yourself. Be a consultant. Lots of translators become consultants, telling the customer how to work.
And this is Ellen, you have a link right outside the box.eu/Ellen Singer. This is your profile, or is it an article?
That's my profile on my own website. It's a combination with two other friends.
We will share the link later.
Dutch.
Okay, we will share the link later.
Translators group into Dutch, and I write copy in from there. And I've already had a few customers, and I am signing my messages sometimes with that profile and sometimes with my technical translation profile. Most people don't believe you can do both. I believe you can, if that's what you like doing. Same thing as I love board games. I have 1,000 board games in my house. Ask me anything about board games, I can do it. I was a chef. I can do culinary translations. Some of my colleagues call me and say, this is what's in the source text. Do you have any idea what they're referring to? And I just guess, and we try it out. And yes, it is very often right. And sometimes you don't want to provide written translations. You want to provide oral translations. I don't do literature, for example. I'll give you another example. I don't do literature, but I translated a short story by an author from Kenya, because I enjoyed doing that. And I had 2 reviewers, because I did it into Dutch, because I already had English and Spanish. I would never do something normally into Dutch, but I did do this. And then with 2 reviewers, I felt comfortable that it would be a good quality. So it was only 2,000 words. It was free. It was voluntary. But I loved doing that. I translated the Jamil and Jamila books because I enjoyed it. So I must say, I don't work for low rates. I do work for 0. I find that a completely different ball game. I do it voluntarily when I want to, but the customer will not dictate my rate.
And you do not support for the bottom feeders, as we said. It's differently to provide voluntary your work, and it's differently to give food to bottom feeders, like to support that industry that doesn't support you and your rates and your living in general.
I don't know how many people here speak other languages and things, but I like going to lots of conferences. And one of the things I really, really enjoyed was this short story that we did. We're trying to get it to be 100 languages. It's going to be there soon. I think we're 90-something right now.
Wow.
It's on the list of literature translations, the most translated literature on the Wikipedia page. And it's funny because it's one of the few that is not a European language. The original is in Kikuyu. I'm sure you don't know what even Kikuyu is. It's one of the languages of Kenya. And the author also rewrote it in English and provided it for free to be translated. And I think it's a wonderful project. So yes, I do cooperate with that. And I try to find other translators for that. But I will not market and promote a bottom feeder at a bottom feeder rate, because that's a different story. Last year, I mentored a Kenyan translator for 3 months by showing him around Europe.
I remember.
Kevin came and stayed with us. Kevin went to translator meetings. I took him to MemoQ courses, one here in the Netherlands, one in Portugal. I took him to Romania. We went to Prague, and he met lots of translators. He now has lots of contacts. Contacts is essential in this business.
That's our next live. That's our next live that we're going to do.
CEOs and CFOs are contacted, and old ministers are contacted to be CEOs and CFOs. Why? because they have a network. That is your value. So that is also your value. People ask me, do you know a translator into this? And I say, yes. And sometimes, I must say, once I suggested someone who ended up not being a good providing value for money. And my colleague told me, my customer colleague told me, and I now know I shouldn't recommend that one person. Everyone else I've recommended, I've been told that delivered value for money. So that's the way you want to do this.
Yeah.
And yes, you make mistakes.
Networking, I think, is the second most common way of getting clients, and it was, I think, the second voted in the survey, the research I did for my MBA. So networking is general, yes, and also there are many companies, online businesses in the US, that they get a lot of money out of just creating networking opportunities and growing your network. So it's not something to just discuss. It's a business, of course. It's a business. It's a way of getting business, and it's the future. And still the present. And Ellen, thank you so much for our today's live. We're almost half an hour ahead of our initial plan, but we had that in mind.
My takeaways? Can I just share my takeaways?
And those are the takeaways, and we sum up our live today to close. Thank you, all of you, that you were here with us. So Ellen, the takeaways?
In my opinion, a professional selects his or her tools, doesn't have them thrust upon them. A translator is an in-depth reader, so no one will read the source text as you will. So tell your customer what you think of it, even if you actually don't tell them it's all crap. Tell them why it's crap. Tell them also this and that is good, but this could be improved. Don't tell them it's crap. You say that to your head, but you don't tell them. You tell them in a bit more professional way. You tell them, this is really good, this is not so good, that is really good, and that feels better for them. And select your market and your tools to not only work who you work for, but in my opinion, you shouldn't be working for people. You're not an employee. You're working with people. You're a partner. And slowly but surely, people are understanding that translators should be introduced into the process before the end stage. Very often they've been 5 months writing something, and then they expect you to translate in 2 days. That does not work. If you are in the process, you can tell them what will and will not work in your culture and what does need to be adapted. That goes for games, that goes for everything. It doesn't really matter. And your most important asset is not your CAT tool. It's not even your computer. It's your brain. Your brain decides if a solution is viable or not. Your network helps you decide and helps you put your brain in the right gear to be able to decide. So your biggest asset is not anything you buy. It's what you have. And if you do not do CPD, if you do not learn how things evolve, you will be left behind. So talk to other people. I also run a thing called ART, All Round Translators. We do one workshop every 3 months. It's not huge. Why do I do this? I do this because I believe that translators should not be working in the attic, basement, back room, or somewhere hidden. They should be visible. They should be included in the process of the business, because once you include the translator into your process will be better. And if you do not act as a partner, you are not acting to their best interest. Now I'm shutting up, and it's your turn to summarize.
Yeah, that was just to sum up, but I think you closed the live better than me. So thank you, Ellen, for saying that. And I totally agree 100% with you and what you already said. For those that you missed the live, you can definitely watch the recording, and you will find out how Ellen started out as a translator, how she did scale up, the answers to your questions. So you're welcome. I see you're thanking us in the comments, so you're welcome. I hope that we have answered all of, if not most of your questions. Ellen will be in the group, so if you want to reach her out via the conversation in the chat, you can definitely continue in the comments. We will be in the Mentoring for Translators group, and if you want to watch the recording, you can find it on YouTube, on Facebook public pages under my name, and of course in the Mentoring for Translators group, where Ellen is a member and you can reach her out directly. Ellen, thank you so much. Our topic was providing value to our clients, but we answered many other questions as well. I really appreciate you being here, and all of you that you stayed with us up to the end. We're like 90 minutes live here. Thank you, all of you, 1 hour and a half. Ellen, we will be soon in touch.
How many people do we have? How many?
20 people still right now watching us live.
Nice.
Yeah,
thank you.
But yeah, thank you all of you that you stayed 1 hour and a half here with us. You're welcome. See you in the group. So bye for now, Ellen. You stay here with me. So thank you all of you for being here. Bye for now.